MCube is transforming the future of Milwaukee through education by multiplying the power of MPS, MATC, and UWM. These three institutions of public education are closing equity gaps so all students succeed.
Empowering students and families to build the future they want and deserve. MCube affected my life by giving me lifetime friends and letting me have the experiences of going to college.
Once you're actually in the program, you see it's not like high school and you're able to adapt and get ready for what's to come when you do go to college.
MCube allowed me to prepare for college life. It helped me understand how to structure my day.
I was very comfortable starting my freshman year after going through MCube. I felt like I knew exactly what needed to be done. I knew how important looking over your syllabus before classes started was. The real world is not gonna have everything lined out for me because I have to set my path and follow that path. So I believe it just prepared me for the real world.
This is something that has really been able to cut the cost of college because they are able to complete classes before they get onto the college campus.
And what we have demonstrated is those students can take that 21 credits. They have found that they can be successful. They get support from their faculty, they get support from their counselors, and from their parents.
The issues that we're facing when we talk about education in our community in the K-12 and frankly K-16 system are so big that no one institution can solve them. We really need everybody to come together.
MCube is so important for Milwaukee Public Schools because it gives us an opportunity to work with our young people to ensure success. And these are opportunities that they know when they walk out of high school that they can and will be able to do college because they have been successful in a high school experience at the college level.
Our purpose for MCubed is really to transform the future of our city through education. The largest single source of students for us from high school, direct from high school, come from MPS, and we are the largest source of students that transfer to UW-Milwaukee.
There's a lot of employers who need the talent, and they need diverse talent. MCubed is the answer, because we can put more people into 2-year and 4-year degrees with diverse backgrounds than any other type of program that you can get. It really is an early way to acclimate and get students involved with the campus and much more likelihood of success for coming through and ultimately graduating from UWM.
Our employers right now, they're saying we need people into the workforce right now, and if you can start in high school, just think about how much more quickly you can go.
After college, I would like to go to medical school so that I can go on the path of becoming a psychiatrist.
I'm very optimistic about the future, mostly because I have great connections with everyone that I have, and I have just the resources that I need.
It showed me, just how much I wanted to go to school and to make my own decisions and prepare me for the real world. I feel very great about it.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us for this important conversation. My name is Chia Vang. I am the Interim Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for the University of Wisconsin here in Milwaukee. MCube brings together and amplifies the impact of Milwaukee Public Schools, the Milwaukee Area Technical College, and UWM to transform the future of education. Together, we are empowering students and families to build the future that they want and deserve, and ensuring our young people in our region thrive. We focus on 3 areas: connecting learning across middle, high school, and college, successfully transitioning students to college, and driving college completion. As Milwaukee's 3 urban public education institutions serving racially and ethnically diverse student populations, we are uniquely positioned to lift students of color and strengthen our entire community. Since the partnership began, MCubed has helped grow graduation rates, FAFSA completion rates, the rate of MPS students going to college immediately after graduation. Our work has also translated to an opportunity, a responsibility, and a role in building the region's diverse talent pipeline. This pipeline begins at the K-12 level, and M-Cubed has demonstrated results in helping students achieving college level success in high school. MQ continues to bring together educators to streamline curriculum so that students learn in a clear sequence from middle to high school and college. And starting with 32 students in its first year, MQ's College Connections has its dual enrollment has grown to a class of 120 students this year. They have the opportunity to earn 21 credits by taking college level classes with instructors on the campuses of METC and UWM. And College Connections, for the students who have participated, they have already saved $750,000 in college costs by earning credits while still in high school. This is an issue of critical importance, both for educators and for business and community leaders. That's why we are so honored this morning to have Tim Sheehy, the president of the Metropolitan Milwaukee Association of Commerce, or MMAC, joining us today alongside MPS Superintendent Dr. Keith Pulsley, MATC President Vicki Martin, and UWM Chancellor Dr. Mark Mauney. Before we begin this conversation, I would like to take this opportunity to briefly acknowledge and thank our M-Cubed Advisory Board members, Joanne Anton, Director of Charitable Giving and Pericole Philanthropies, Dan Bader, President and CEO of Bader Philanthropies, Ellen Gilligan, President and CEO of the Greater Milwaukee Foundation, Linda Gorens-Levy, a community volunteer and partner with General Capital, Dr. Eve Hall, President of the recently Greater Milwaukee Urban League, Jackie Hurd-Berber, community volunteer and philanthropist, Jose Olivieri, co-managing partner at Michael Best and Frederick LLP, Mark Sablejack, founder and owner of Sablejack and Buddish, Tim Sheehy, who is again here with us today and president of MMAC, as I mentioned, Julia Taylor, president of the Greater Milwaukee Committee, and our newest member, Brian Melka, group president for Power at Kohler. The panelists will be taking questions, so if you would like to ask a question, please feel free to submit them via the chat here right in Zoom. Now on to our first question this morning. I will ask Mr. Sheehy to begin with our conversation. What is the biggest challenge you see in building the diverse talent pipeline for the Milwaukee region? What need are you trying to meet, and what role can education play in regional workforce efforts?
Sure, thank you for that question, Chia. And let me start by thanking Keith and Mark and Vicki for this visionary and very effective partnership, which we call M-Cubed. It's a critical part of solving the challenge, not only for the students, but for the employers that I represent. And so I think about answering your question from two perspectives. On one end, we have about 10,000 people a day turning 65. And what that means is that over the next, between now and 2040, the working age population in the region is going to grow by less than 1%. And if I put up the top 5 job openings today in southeastern Wisconsin, that would total 56,000 open jobs. So employers have a need and a thirst to fill these open jobs because talent is what really fuels their growth. So I think about the need on one end, and then I think about the challenge that M-Cube is focused on the other end. And that's preparing people for those opportunities in our economy. And as we sit here today, and I look at the 114,000 people that are 114,000 students that are publicly funded in the city of Milwaukee, 12% of those students are going to graduate from high school and go on to a 2-year and 4-year institution and graduate from that within 6 years. So we clearly have a need as employers to open that aperture to get more students prepared to take on the jobs that are here. A third of those require a college degree, 60% require some post-secondary education. So M3 is squarely in the space that's important to employers about growing that pipeline. And on the other end, employers have to be a good partner. We need to improve how we recruit, how we retain, and how we advance diverse talent. So we have work to do in our own businesses to make sure that we're prepared to take on these diverse young people as they move into and become a bigger part of the workforce. So again, I look forward to participating today and just really thankful that Keith, Mark, and Vicki have stood up this M Cubed. I think it's going to be critically important to the future of the economy and to supporting these young people as they pursue their careers.
I'm also grateful for having my partners here today. And Tim, thank you for your comments. I think I'll speak a little bit more to those. But first, we know that Milwaukee is facing critical urban issues related to poverty, segregation, incarceration rates of Black males, and workforce shortages. And at the same time, we're experiencing pandemic stress and re-examination of our work-life balance. We're experiencing the Great Recession, or the Big Quit, with a rate of about 4.3 million people in August. And as these people are quitting, resigning, we're facing, and they are facing, complex life challenges such as childcare, homeschooling, health, and the mental health risks that are going on right now. And at the same time, employers have added 530,000 new jobs since October. Employers in our 7 counties indicate that they are understaffed, as you heard, and challenged to fill positions as current employer hiring processes are no longer attracting viable talent at the rate that they really need to. In this environment, employers are more motivated than ever to engage with the education community and expand their diversity efforts to hire the talent that they desperately need right now and that our communities and regions need. As you heard, the best solution to many of these issues for employers is education. And as a reflection of the communities we serve, and with an emphasis on our overlapping urban education and research missions, Milwaukee's 3 largest public educators, MPS, MATC, and UWM, we've partnered together to really be the key change agents through M Cubed to help build this diverse talent pipeline and help employers to grow their own. As partners who are actively engaged in working together across the K through 16 education system, we will use that exponential collaboration as reflected in our name, M Cubed, to produce greater student success and career preparedness. Keith, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. I want to say it's an honor to be here with my partners in this work, Vicki, Mark, and Tim. Thank you all. And I just want to just get right to that question. I want to provide some concrete examples of how M Cubed can address the workforce shortage issue. In addition to increasing the number of students who are successful for graduation from our institutions, students need early exposure to these pathways. And as far as workforce opportunities and education required for these career pathways. And I will start by saying all MPS students have the academic and career plans, which we call in the Milwaukee Public Schools ACP, developed by the student, the teacher, the counselor, and parents beginning in 6th grade. And the plan is to inform, to increase the increase surveys around curriculum and exposure to multiple career sectors and annual updates. M Cubed has leveraged this efforts by connecting students to career clusters that matches their interests. So we want to make sure that we're matching our students' interests. And during the pre-pandemic times, M Cubed would bring all of our 9th and 10th grade students to MATC and UWM campus classrooms for sessions with faculty of their choosing in their careers and bring them there to have a conversation. And what our efforts have been since the pandemic, we have transitioned to virtual and we look forward to the future of coming back together on the campus of UWM and MATC to be able to offer that to our young people. We talk about early exposure, and that's a perfect example of early exposure. Mark?
Well, Dr. Posley, Dr. Martin, Tim, Dr. Vang, thank you for your setup. What powerful words, and thank you attendees for hearing us and helping support our efforts. Nothing, in my opinion, is more important than the work that we're addressing on this panel today. The diverse talent pipeline is the answer to the challenges that are facing us. It is the educational, social, and employment answer that we absolutely need. This is what's undergirded our work and collaborative efforts, and they've done nothing but pick up momentum and have greater impact over the years. Let me share with you the magnitude of the issues and then make a couple, maybe 3 or 4 key points about this. I want to share some numbers with you that really underscore the need for us comprehensively to address the issues. The southeastern 7 counties of Wisconsin comprise of 35% of the white population in the state, more than a third. But we also contain 80% of the African-American population in the state of Wisconsin, and we're almost 60% of the Hispanic population. Now, if you look at the education level, this is where things start to underscore this issue of what we call the achievement gap. Roughly 95% of the white population in southeastern Wisconsin has a high school degree. 83% of the African-American population have degrees, and about 70% of the Hispanic population. Let's keep going, and let's talk about what Tim Sheehy talked about in terms of the percentage of those jobs that are out there today. Of those 56,000 jobs, roughly 35, 36% that need college degrees. But let's look at the breakdown that I just mentioned more specifically. Of the white population in southeastern Wisconsin, 38% have 2-year or 4-year degrees. Pretty good alignment. But the staggering issues, and this is where things fall apart, is that only 14% of African American and 14% of Hispanic population in the southeastern 7 counties have either a 2-year or 4-year degree. So what's the consequence of this? And let me draw a few key points. Number one, the achievement gap is real. There's no denying it. And the point of that is that no one institution, whether it's academic, employment, government, economic development, no agency, nobody alone is going to solve this issue. The numbers are substantial. And this is what underscores why we have a lot of individuals who frankly have been left behind. So the economy and the recovery and the strength we hear about, but it's leaving a lot of people behind. And a lot of times this is when we look at the reasons why we have 2 Milwaukees. Fundamentally, it really comes down to this education gap. There's a lot of individuals who simply cannot participate. Point number 2, Tim Sheehy has done an incredible job with MMAC leading the Milwaukee area region of choice. This is one of the most important things that's going to not only help address the achievement gap, but when you think about the consequences, what happens if we do not have employment opportunities at family sustaining jobs? What happens to neighborhood stability? What happens to individual and population health? What happens to incarceration levels and any number of different issues? It's not going to improve if we can't bring that together. So the point is the region of choice, which has aspirations for all employers in this region to accomplish 25% more diversity in terms of leadership positions compared to where they are in 2020 to 2025, and also to have 15% more employment overall of diverse employees by 2025. We cannot solve that problem if M Cubed doesn't really have the support and have the success that we need. The number of individuals, we're a huge part of that. Point number 3, education and employment. As much as we talk about a lot of other determinants of what's happening in this community, those are the twin pillars. So I'm really happy to have this opportunity today to underscore the need for us to do everything we can to focus on not just K-12. And by the way, we work with MTS. They're a critical partner, the largest public educator in the state of Wisconsin. But we also work with Dr. Posey, Dr. Martin. We're part of Milwaukee Succeeds. So we're working on early childhood education. We're working on Black and brown male high school graduates. Those are critical areas of need. So we're really focused, again, Tim Sheehy is part of that initiative as well. So we've got MCube leadership and many others in the community that are working comprehensively, but it's about education and then employment. And finally, the workforce needs, how we're aligned. And you saw from that video, you saw the types of, whether it's the application in terms of internships, co-ops, the alignment that we have with employers today. This is exactly what we're doing. We're preparing individuals for the workplace and really for much better lives. So thank you, and Chia, back to you.
Sure. Thank you, Chancellor Moni. And thank you all panelists for your response to that question. The next question that we'd like you to address, and I will ask Dr. Martin to begin. What is MQ doing and what more needs to be done to help students transition from high school to college and from a 2-year college like METC to a 4-year institution like UWM, and really from education into the workforce? What more needs to be done?
Thanks for that question. I'm really excited about the work that MCubed is doing to really improve that high school to post-secondary transition and then between our two post-secondary institutions. You heard in the video at the beginning, you heard me say that METC is the largest source of enrolled students that come from MPS, and then UWM, most METC students select UWM as their choice for transfer. So ensuring this successful, smooth transition between our institutions is really critical and important. I want to start a little bit around what we do with high school to work and then to college as well. We're engaged with some major local companies, including Harley-Davidson and We Energies, to offer youth apprenticeships, which allow high school students to receive college-level instruction and on-the-job experience at those employer partners. And what's really been great about that experience is that many of those students have chosen to either go on to a full adult apprenticeship, or many of them have decided to go on to college as well. So it's really helped them to really understand what the workforce is about, to get that early experience, get mentoring. All of that's really important. You're also hearing a lot, and we've talked about the dual enrollment, or what I call early college. These are courses that provide actual credit towards the graduation requirements, both at METC and UWM, and has proved to really be a best practice to increase student success. Students who complete a college course while still in high school benefit in a number of different ways. First, they gain confidence, and you heard some of the students in the video talk about that, demonstrating that their capacity to really succeed in college, to really understand the rigor that is required, and to overcome a barrier that many first-generation students experience by introducing them to faculty, campuses, curriculum, programs, other students. We make sure that we're student ready to address their needs, and we give them the support that they need to succeed. So there's a lot of advising, a lot of people involved in this between our institutions. You heard in the video that we can transfer up to 21 college credits, which, if you think about student debt right now, that is unbelievable, the savings for these students and their families. And then it accelerates the speed to which they get into their career. Besides our dual enrollment program, College Connections, which you heard about, we're also engaging students with the Bradley Tech Early College Model. And we just launched the HVAC program at Obama School of Career and TEDx in partnership with both MPS and Johnson Controls. And that again introduces young people to new careers that they hadn't maybe thought of before, didn't know that existed. With Moonshot for Equity, we were looking at that transfer function between UWM and METC, and we're looking at how can we make that a better process, easier process, and just that work alone, we've discovered there's a lot of steps involved, and we want to really simplify and make it much easier for students to get between our two institutions, and just really increase the number of credits that are transferable. So Mark, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Vicki. Great answer. And I want to just springboard up a couple of comments that Dr. Martin just made, and then add a few other things. Dr. Martin just mentioned the Moonshot for Equity, and just to put the goal out there, we have stood up across our institutions in this region with Milwaukee Area Technical College, UW-Milwaukee, and Carthage College and UW Parkside with one central goal. We're going to close entirely the achievement gap by 2030, so that students who enter any of our institutions will graduate at the same rate. So it's a big, bold initiative. And it has undertaken, we've implemented a lot of different practices, and transfer pathways is one. Identifying and eliminating barriers or holds is another one. On our campus alone, this fall, because of those efforts, we have 450 more students than otherwise would be here. So these are powerful activities. Vicki also mentioned the amount of dollars that are saved, the confidence that's increased. I can put a number on that. We've saved students $750,000 in tuition. How does that help in terms of a head start, reducing student debt? So great points, Vic. I just wanted to add a little bit to that. You know, I have to tell you, through our MQ College Connection, these students have options in terms of linkages with the workplace through what we call general pathways or more specific paths. Think about what Tim said in terms of 56,000 jobs that are open today. If you were to dissect, look at what are the critical needs in those areas, I can assure you, you'd look at healthcare jobs, nursing in particular, but other healthcare occupations. You'd look at education, the need for teachers. You would look at information technology, computer science, software engineers. You would have these particular buckets or job clusters that we need help. And that's exactly how we're lining up our curriculum and looking at the opportunities for students to have those areas. The transfer pathways that Vicki mentioned, that's critical across the country. We have a huge number of students. Vicki can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's in the neighborhood of 85% of students who start technical college want to go on and graduate from four-year institutions. But the number is modest in terms of those who ultimately do. I think the number is in the neighborhood of 20 or 25% who ultimately go on. What are the problems? A lot of times it's around transfer issues that students just don't find it easy. We put a lot of obstacles up. So we really need to focus on those particular areas and really develop nursing, healthcare, general business, information technology, and education pathways. Keith, over to you.
Thank you, Mark. Just as Mark and Vicki has alluded to earlier around equity, and I want to add an equity lens. And we know that in the past, many of our students were eligible to take dual enrollment classes, or were those students with the highest GPA, and that was recommended by their teacher or counselor. Certainly, all of our students should continue accessing dual enrollment options. However, MCube wants to make sure that we use more of an equitable approach. And by doing that, Milwaukee Public Schools College and Career Readiness Department identified all of our rising seniors with significant high school credits to graduate, and conducted a direct outreach to students and parents about the MCube connection option. So through a holistic review and considerations of other factors such as student attendance, we know that makes a difference, or either improved GPAs rather than just an overall GPA. The program has grown to 150 students enrolled in the fall of 2021. The diverse group of students who would not have met some of these previous requirements have demonstrated a high level of success, both in courses completed and post-secondary enrollment. And you can see Chris and Kayla, who's a part of the video that we just seen earlier. Students have shown that the MCube College Connections video this morning that was showed, those are perfect examples of they are now attending MATC and UWM, and are examples of the diverse talent pipeline that we're building. And I also want to note that MCube continues to focus on the role of parents and family plays to support their children's transition to post-secondary education. We know that is a big factor. While not every parent has a personal experience in attending college, they recognize the value of education to prepare their child for a successful career and life. The MCube Parent Institute is a 6-week program led by school counselors and enhanced then with the input from MATC representatives as UWM representatives. And we have these sessions are held in English and in Spanish. And we're moving forward back to, we also have this right now in a virtual platform, but we can't wait to get this back into a face-to-face setting.
Thank you, Dr. Posley. I am so thrilled every time we can come together in person. So thank you for all of your responses. Our third question, before we turn it over to engage with all of you with your questions in the chat, is that, again, related to the pandemic, and Dr. Posley, I'm going to ask you to begin the discussion. COVID-19 relief funds have really helped to strengthen MCube's College Connections dual enrollment program. So the MPI students, seniors could earn college credits at both METC and UWM. The program has really helped to accelerate students and save costs, as we've already discussed. What can be done? What can we be, doing? How can we ensure that we expand the capacity, right? To ensure that there is long-term support for broader dual enrollment. We know it has been so impactful. What else can we be doing to ensure long-term?
Thank you, Dr. Vang. First, I want to express my appreciation of the availability of the federal relief dollars in the face of the pandemic. Funds were allocated to K-12 institutions we refer to it here as ESSER funds, and that just means the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. And we have been providing and working with our community, and these dollars are set aside in face of our challenges that our students and our schools face because of the pandemic. And one purpose of the funding is to reduce learning loss for our students that has been experienced over the last 18 months. And, working with the community as a whole, we came up with 5 identified areas of how we were going to use those dollars. And that was accelerating learning, health and wellness, facilities, technology, and extracurricular engagement. And MPS is expanding in dual enrollment to ensure more students have access to college level courses before graduating from high school. This is also increasing access to rigorous courses and content so that students are successfully graduating high school with college credits and have the confidence to continue in a post-secondary program. Our MCube team are currently planning to ensure as many students as possible can benefit from the widely variety of dual enrollment options. Our team are all in on this, and we are just can't wait to see the excitement and the success from all of our students.
Yes, I think that the federal funds have really been helpful in supporting these initiatives that we know are successful. According to Complete College America, students who declare a major in their first year of college are more likely to successfully complete and graduate on time. So if we can get started in the 12th grade, the likelihood of on time and even early completion of a credential that leads to a family sustaining wage in an in-demand career area is going to be really critical and important. And so the fact that we're focused in on this and we understand how successful and important this is for our students and their families and our employers is really important to us. So I know at METC, we totally reorganized internally to make sure that we had more capacity to be able to be a good partner in MCube on this very initiative. And so I think just to continue to focus and expand, I think when you look at other states and see what they've done, they've really made progress in looking at reducing student debt by offering those credentials and also just the success. We want to make sure more and more students complete. We know there's just too many folks in our community who start college and don't complete. I think in our county, it's around 125,000 folks who have some college but don't have a credential or degree of some sort. So we really want to move that needle. We want to do it in an equitable way. So I think these are the kinds of initiatives we need to grow as we move forward. And so Mark, I'll turn over to you.
Sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead, Dr. Vang.
Sure. Chancellor Mone, I'm gonna, this is such an important question. I wanted to ask Mr. Sheehy to chime in a little bit because, businesses play such an important part in supporting, our education efforts. So Mr. Sheehy, the same question, do you have a few thoughts to share with us?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I've lost the question.
Sure. It is about all the COVID-19 relief funds that has enabled us to really continue dual enrollment for MCube, but how do we ensure sustainability in the long term? What can we be doing together?
Well, as Dr. Posley knows well, the challenge is they're one-time funds. And so they're important, and I know they're being put to good use. And I think the challenge is going forward, how do we build on those one-time funds to address a challenge, not only again for the students, but for employers. So I think, again, M Cubed is a great way to continue to execute, even with the uptick in funding that occurred this year through ESSER and other federal funds, that the M Cubed work is so important because it's a way to sustain this work going forward. And it's a way to keep these three institutions connected and partnering to help kids down this pathway. And again, I think Mark has identified this with some of the statistics that he's put out, but it's just critically important for every employer that they have lifelong learners. So this isn't an end game, this isn't a destination. It's a way to prepare these young people so they can continue to advance in their careers, they can continue to grow their own value and continue to support the growth of companies in the region. So again, just very appreciative of the work. I'm happy to see the ESSER funding kind of bump this up this year. And the challenge going forward is, how do we take advantage of that?
Thank you. And now Chancellor Mone.
No, I think this is perfect. I think Tim's perspectives are spot on. And I was going to add a little bit to one of his points. And let me first acknowledge and salute, like my education colleagues have, the value of ESSER and HERF funding. Those are applicable to both K-12 at the ESSER level and HERF at the higher ed level. And we could not have survived the devastating effects of the pandemic very well without those. Many campuses across the country of higher ed actually had to declare financial exigency. This is very, very real in terms of the immediate impact and the revenue losses that were experienced. But they are backward looking. And I want to make that point. Those funds are to fill specific holes. So of our funds, we gave more than half of those funds directly to the students for their aid. Many of them lost their jobs. Many of them could no longer afford the types of support that they had, whether it's in terms of housing or food and other things, whether they moved home or had to have many other roommates to be able to accommodate. So that was important, but it was filling holes for them, filling holes for institutions. And Tim points out the critical issue, which is going forward, what are the changes that will be accomplished to increase base funding, or through M-Cube types of examples to economize, to find answers for students to make progress more economically, for us to work with all students, meet them where they are, and really engage meaningfully. So how do we change our institutions? This isn't just asking for more money. This is how do we fundamentally change how we engage, how we operate. And that's what M-Cubed is doing in terms of sharing curriculum, having workshops, really looking at bringing students on campus at earlier ages and earlier stages, really engaging, because the mindset to attend college doesn't just start when you're a junior or senior in high school. Those tracks are laid at a much younger age. But we also have to link employment with education. Again, I'm going to say that. We have to show students, if they want to become a programmer, if they want to become a CNC operator, if they want to become an aircraft mechanic or a police officer, engineer, you name it, you've got to start that thinking earlier. It doesn't just pop up upon you. So I do think, looking forward, I'll make three final points. Number one, we really do need in public education significant attention paid to how we're funding and what kind of support we are providing for our education institutions. And I say that recognizing the cuts that the state of Wisconsin has imposed over the last dozen years to higher ed. That is a challenge. Number two, are we really seeing public education today as a public good? Are we paying lip service to that, or are we really supporting it? Are we doing the things that are necessary in our neighborhoods, in our communities, to understand the vital role of education? And final comment is that I think today you can see the consequences of us not having been comprehensive, of us not working together. In other words, operating in a siloed manner to say, well, MPS is only responsible, for education without the kind of support that's necessary, or whether it's UW or MATC. We really do need to bond together, and that's why I'm so glad that we have cut our hands. We've signed a blood oath. That's Dr. Martin, Dr. Posley, and I, that we're in this for the long run. And you have with us three institutional leaders that I can tell you represent over 100 years in our respective institutions collectively, that have that commitment and are to keep these institutions strong, working together to meet employer needs, but to really recognize the impact that we need to have for our communities, stability and strength. So thank you, Chia.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, everyone, for your thoughtful response on this topic. It is a concern for all of us, and we are so fortunate to have all of you in the audience today who are concerned and committed leaders. Thank you to those of you who have submitted some questions. I will read through them and I'll direct them if they are more specific to an individual. Otherwise, others, please feel free to chime in. I think the first question is, does the region of choice address a living wage? And I believe that's really geared towards Mr. Sheehy. So if you could provide a response for that.
Sure. What the region of choice is really focused on, as Mark identified, is increasing the number of African-American and Hispanic and Latino talent as a part of either the management or the overall company. So it doesn't speak to funding, but the answer for the companies in the region of choice and for almost all of our members is the press to find talent here has really closed some of the wage gaps that were out there. And so I'm not sure I have members anymore that have any jobs that don't pay a living wage, presuming that living wage definition is 15 an hour. So I think almost every employer that's a member of ours is paying that or well above it.
Thank you so much. There's two questions that I'm going to combine a little bit, and we may or may not have all of the data right in front of us, but we will provide them. One is about the enrollment capacity for the dual enrollment program. We currently have 120 this year. What is the capacity? And then tying to that, there's a question about, do we have passing grades for the students who are involved in dual enrollment? Maybe I will start with Dr. Posley, if that's okay.
Thank you, Dr. Vang. Yes, one of the things that I will say that we have been able to omit every student that showed interest as far as around capacity. Any student that have come to us that showed interest, that met the qualifications, we have placed them into the program.
If I could just add to that a little bit, I think that given that we have lower enrollment, we are looking to work with more high school students. And so I think our capacity is greater because we do have great faculty who are teaching smaller classes. And so we do definitely want to think about working with more and more high school students, getting them ready for careers in college. We also have the capacity to work with employers as well to upskill, reskill, and to provide that diverse workforce moving forward. So again, the investment that we would put in and that others can put into this program would greatly expand it, and we do have right now the capacity to do so.
Thank you so much. There's a question that's more maybe just your perspectives. The question is that MCUT has students who are, they're more likely to go to college. But is this also a function of, the students who are motivated and they would have gone anyway? So any thoughts about that question?
Just a quick reaction. I think what's interesting, because we focus so much on MPS schools and we start with earlier exposure to college, that hopefully we've created a situation by exposure earlier on, and I'm talking about middle school, exposure to different careers and opportunities, the types of things that we're doing and sharing and trying to promulgate across MPS as well as other K-12 schools. Hopefully a lot of that demand does ultimately get blended together. In other words, how can you determine which students would have gone on to college absent MCUB? But we hope that becomes invisible because we've planted so many seeds that we do have a much higher percentage of students. And I want to make a point about the metrics. We are seeing not only we are seeing, since we've started working together, a double-digit increase in MPS graduation. Think about what that does in terms of the numbers of students who can actually go to college today or to go on to some sort of post-secondary education. We know we need to have at least some sort of certificates. We need to have something beyond high school to really be qualified for jobs. And frankly, as Tim points out, lifelong learning is critical because jobs are continuing to change. Incredibly dynamic technology needs, the way that the supply chains are changing, the way that we're not able to operate effectively if we're not nimble and agile. We need skilled employees. And we, particularly in a state like Wisconsin, where we've got such a high incident, we're the second highest community with regard to manufacturing. San Jose is first, we're number 2 in the country. We need to have smart employees. We need to have smart technology capable employees, and we're exposing students to those needs earlier. And I'm really pleased with some of the scholarship support, some of the types of things that you see at MATC in terms of the Promise program, the types of support that we're getting from individuals like Satya Nadella, Avi Shaked, others that are channeling specific scholarship funds in technology related areas. That's a big part of our future. That doesn't replace base budget, but it helps the students an awful lot.
Right. So thanks for that, Mark. I'd like to add on to that is that when we originally got together as MCubed, we knew that we had to set the expectations to go on to college as part of the career planning piece. And we also found out, and that's why we started the Promise program, was that we found that many students didn't believe that they could afford to go to college, that they had to go to work instead. And so what we've tried to do is to set the stage together as MCubed, looking at that FAFSA completion. If we can get more students to complete that, they then have a choice of moving forward with their college career and working as well. So I think that we've done a number of strategies together to help set the stage for more and more students to believe and understand that they in fact can be prepared to continue their education and careers.
I think Vicki and Mark has hit a number of the different things, but one of the things that I would like to talk about that early and often exposure for our young people. We're getting our young people on campus right away, creating that college going culture and career going culture as well. Looking at how do we get them there, then looking at the social and emotional learning that it's going to take to get them there, working through with them through getting them ready for rigorous courses, getting that success early on in high school, cleaning up and making sure that they don't bring out debt of credits for college and those kinds of things, but they have been successful. And also this other piece is that whole family piece, that 6-week piece is very strong because we know that young people are going to need people in their corner standing behind them, cheering them along, and that we want to empower parents to be able to do that. And I think those 3 factors for me has been truly amazing throughout this partnership and has truly made a difference in our children in the Milwaukee Public Schools as they trickle through MATC and UWM.
Thank you, Dr. Posley. There's more questions, and you sort of answered. We're almost out of time, but you did answer one of the questions was about, does it make sense, right? Exposure is so important. So does it make sense to arrange for campus tours for all freshmen in high school so that they can be inspired? And I'm seeing a lot of nods, so it seems that that's a wonderful question, and that exposure is something that you would be very supportive making freshmen available to visit. Is that the case?
I would say, thank you, John, for the question. Absolutely, yes. And I would say, let's not even wait till the freshman year. We are doing more things through the academic and career planning activities. We're doing a number of things where we do introduce students and invite them to different parts of our campus. One of my dreams, and we're working actively on this, is just one example, is to have students while they're in elementary school come to, for example, our School of Freshwater Science, our Zilber School of Public Health, other activities. And you might all think this is kind of crazy idea, but I've actually suggested a number of times and folks are taking me seriously, and we're working on the concept of coloring books. And why do I say that? If you're in 3rd grade or 1st grade, you go to look at what McDonald's did in the early days and how you bring something home, call it collateral, call it the materials. You bring that home and it becomes part of the discussion, it becomes part of your life. And if we have these students that come on and they go to our research vessel, the NISCE, and they get to hold that steering wheel, and then they come home and they've got something that's a tangible object. They remember, they think about, boy, I want to be that researcher on the lake. I want to be that person who helps discover the next the next solution to the pollution problems that are happening in the Great Lakes, or I want to be the person who really helps identify the answer to that disease. And you start planting those seeds. That's what, John, I think you're suggesting in terms of having students get that early exposure. We bring thousands of students from MPS onto MATC and UWM now for a number of different career fairs and a number of opportunities, but we do need to expand that. So I very much like that idea.
Mhm. So thank you for those of you who submitted questions. If we didn't get to your question, we'll reach out to you or reach out to us, and we'd be happy to provide more data about MCubed. Now, I'd like to invite our panelists to each provide a brief closing remark. How about Dr. Moni? You're on my screen, so I'll ask you to go first.
Oh, thank you, Chia. I'll hit 3 quick points, and they're all reasons for the audience to be optimistic about what you're hearing today and our promise for the future. Number 1, you've got the leadership of these 3 large public institutions that are committed to making a stronger difference in terms of graduation, particularly with an equity lens. We have joined arms and are strongly working on this. Point number 2, the metrics via our dashboard. I encourage you to take a look at the MCube website. We're not perfect. We have much room for improvement, but we've been making great progress. We are data driven. We're very serious about this. Point number 3, we very much appreciate your support. We couldn't do this without your support and that of our advisory board. For example, Senator Cole, Joanne Anton have been critical in terms of providing significant funding for several of the initiatives you've heard about today. There are many others too numerous to list, but I'm really pleased with that kind of support. So thank you again for this opportunity.
So Mr. Sheehy, I have you, if you could provide some remarks.
Sure. Again, thank you for the opportunity to participate. And as Dr. Posley knows well, for years we've run a program with 7th graders in the Milwaukee Public Schools called Be the Spark. And the concept really transfers well to what Mark just mentioned and what you've been talking about, because one of the students really coined the phrase for us by saying, I can't be what I can't see. And so getting these students not only prepared, but getting them to see what their future could look like at MATC or UWM is critically important to not only planting that seed, but to nurturing that. So again, really appreciative of the work that MCubed is doing, not only to get students to see what they can be, but also in terms of removing some of the barriers that impact students first generation going on and matriculating to and through college. And that's the critical part of this. So as Mark laid out, if 38% of the white students here, or the white population in the region, has a 2-year or 4-year degree, and we're looking at the African-American and Hispanic and Latino students and at 10 to 12, there's plenty of capacity here to grow the number of students that can go on to 2-year and 4-year degrees. And this is a great way to help doing that. So happy to participate.
And so thanks for the opportunity today for us to share how we work together and our intentional, our focused, our integrated work where we hold each other responsible and accountable for the outcomes. We have a much greater exponential impact when we work together, committed to our student success and to eliminating the equity gaps for all the reasons that you heard. We know that talent is more important than ever and is needed now. We believe that we have an abundance of talent between our institutions and in our community. We think it's important to develop that diverse talent pipeline, and we need to invest in it and support it. So thank you.
And I agree that our work together is truly a labor of love. But we remain committed and hopeful for our future. We hope that you are inspired as we partner together, the work that we have ahead of us, and as we move forward. But please feel free to reach out to any of us with creative ideas, support in any kind of way. We're looking for wonderful things to be able to continue to do wonderful things for our children and the adults in our community. And this partnership has truly been centered around 3 major institutions to make sure that we can make a difference for the city of Milwaukee, the great state of Wisconsin, and the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Posley, Dr. Martin, Dr. Moni, and Tim Sheehy. And again, to all of you who are our guests here today, we appreciate your partnership on this journey to build the region's diverse talent pipeline. It's so important for us to work together to do that. As we close, I want to make a request of you. As we build the talent pipeline, we are in need of more work-based and experiential learning opportunities so that MPS, MATC, and UWM students can get that exposure that is so important for them prior to entering the workforce. So we are looking for work-based and learning opportunities. That will be our focus for the webinar in January 2022. So if you want to learn more about work-based opportunities, or if you have opportunities to provide to our students, please reach out to us. You can email us at m-cubed@uwm.edu. You should see that on your screen, but it will also be in an email that will be sent as a follow-up to today's presentation. That message will also include important resources. For example, the M-Cubed Impact Report, which outlines our collective impact over the past year. That will answer some of the questions that we didn't get to. The M-Cube video with which we open our presentation today, it should be there for you to watch in case you missed the beginning. And you'll also get a link to rewatch today's presentation. And finally, it'll have an invitation for you to sign up for our M-Cubed newsletter. Once again, thank you for joining us, and thank you for being a part of this important conversation. Have a great rest of your day.
Great job, everyone.